Here we are going live. Eric Crocker and Brian Peacock, a little Locked On 49ers live, talking about day 2 of training camp, all the latest with your San Francisco 49ers. Maybe an up and down day for young Trey Lance. The DBs still, I think, are winning this camp so far in the very early going. Let's get into all of it. And, of course, your questions in the live chat right now.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you at BD Peacock, at Eric_Crocker. Thanks for making us your first listen every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day is what we do. And now that it's the on season, man, it's been fast and furious, Croc. I'm pumped. We're getting all kinds of news and information and video and tidbits. I'll be at training camp a little bit later. And I'm excited for it all, man. I love it. I'm seeing the folks jumping in the chat. They were here early before we even got here, Croc. So that's what kind of fan base this is, fired up for 2022.
Hey, you just talked about news dropping, and DK Metcalf just signed. So what does that mean for Deebo Samuel?
Ooh, just signed. This is some hot off the presses stuff here. DK Metcalf. Okay, we got to see, because I always said the guy
I'm looking at it
is going to get the most money. It's a 3-year deal, though. So this is 3 years, 70. Ooh, this is actually not that bad of a deal.
Not bad.
3 years, $72 million for DK Metcalf is what I'm seeing here, which means that's less than $25 million per year. And it also means that new contract starts next year after the end of his rookie contract this year. So A.J. Brown, it looks like, has won the day, which is why I guess Deebo's agent, who's also A.J. Brown's agent, right, was trying to have him traded because that got him the most money of the entire group. Very interesting. Yeah. So 3 years, 72. Terry McLaurin was 3 years, 71. That's it. That's the money. So let's go. It's a
the real number, though, is the guaranteed amount.
Yes.
And I do believe DK got the highest guaranteed, if I'm not mistaken. That's the most important thing. And here, most importantly, for a receiver or Deebo or DK, his free agency again at 27 years old. Deebo is about to be 27.
Right. Yeah. DK at the end of this contract is going to be the same age as Deebo is right now.
Right.
Damn.
So that's why if I'm Deebo Samuel, it's like, I got to strike gold on this one. No pun intended.
Okay, shout out to Akash for breaking it down here. So we've got DK Metcalf at the $24 million per year, and just below A.J. Brown's $25 million per year, but just a little bit more guarantee for Metcalf, and one fewer year, obviously. It's a 3-year extension instead of a 4-year extension. A.J. Brown's guarantees were $57.2 million. DK Metcalf's guarantees were $58 million. Signing bonus a little more for DK, but that's part of the guarantees as well. $30 million signing bonus for DK, so he gets more up front. Brown's signing bonus $23.2 million. So Deebo Samuel is going to get right in there. If you had to guess, it'd be $24.5 million per year. And I know he's been hunting for that $25 million. $59 million guaranteed, $30 million signing bonus, something like that. That's what we already know what it's going to be. So it's they're quibbling over some very small things because the contract has been set for Deebo Samuel.
That's what I was talking about on the previous show. There's got to be these small details that one side isn't agreeing on. Most likely Deebo's, right? I'm pretty sure 49ers are like, hey, this is what we want to give you. And he's like, I don't like this little stipulation right here that could probably cost him a few $1 million.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you could throw something in crazy. Kyler Murray style, right? But oh shoot, we got some crazy stuff going on in the chat.
I know. I just was deleting some of them, but yeah, what if there's something in there where they're like, all right, Deebo, you sometimes can come in a little overweight, so we're gonna put in here that you can't eat Chick-fil-A during the season.
I saw Deebo running on the sideline at camp.
He looked fast still.
Looked fast and looked fine.
Looked like Deebo. I know. Yeah.
Deebo. I didn't think he was overweight. I didn't think he was underweight. I thought he looked fast. I thought he looked ready to hit the field and start practicing as soon as that deal gets signed. Yeah. That's the vibe I got from Deebo running on the sideline in non-uniform.
Yeah, maybe his weight doesn't matter. Well, it will matter if he pulls something. Like that's what you don't want.
Mm-hmm. You could, if you're, it's a negotiation. So you cave on guarantees and you say, okay, well, you want to be in good shape anyway. So let's just put it in the contract, 220 pounds. You got to be under 220, something like that, whatever it is. So I could see something like that being in there. Although, it's almost to this point, at this point, I think it's not worth it for any of the parties to put something like that in there. Like there's no way that Kyler Murray's people wanted that stuff public. Right? In his contract with the stipulation.
Who let that get out? That's the part I would be upset about, especially if I'm his agent. And a lot of times the agents leak some of the details to a contract to make it look better than what it really is, right? They want to tell Adam Schefter. But who said, you know what? They're paying him a little bit more for him to study 4 hours a week. 4 hours, that's not even much time.
That's not that much time. And like if they put a stipulation for Deebo's weight in there, it's going to be a huge deal. And everyone's going to freak out about Deebo's weight all the time and put even more of a microscope on it. So I don't really think it helps any of the parties to do something like that. Did you see this question from Jewish guy says, did you see Kyler Murray's presser? Did you hear him talking about it?
No, I didn't hear him talk about that. I heard him talk about some other things about his teammates and he's a hard worker. He loves football or something.
Yeah, basically he was like, it's pretty flattering if you think that I would be this good at football and not study.
Well, sometimes it does look like a little backyard football.
It does. And like, what's funny is we talked about it on the Peacock and Williamson NFL show today, and I think it is a bit of a red flag for Kyler Murray to have that in his contract. But I was looking for photos to put as the thumbnail, right? To put the podcast up on YouTube. And he looks hilarious in some of those photos. Because what he looks like on the field, and he's a small little dude, right? But like when you see him in photos next to offensive linemen, next to his teammates, just see him in that context, like this guy looks legitimately odd.
He's built kind of funny too, and not to get on him because he's a Cardinal. Like this, just my observation. I remember when seeing him, and I'm like, he's kind of built like a big midget.
He's got a build that's like, yeah, it's like it's 1% dwarfism or something like that. Like that's what it feels like. Absolutely. Oh, so let's see it. Well, let's see it in the chat. Let's see the predictions. What is the years? What is the overall dollars? What is the guarantees for Deebo Samuel? I think he'll probably try to be in that $25 million per year range. DK didn't get it. I think Deebo has the best season. We've talked about it, but doesn't have the body of work that those guys have. So I think the 49ers might be right to say, okay, we're going to give you 24. But like, is that worth quibbling over?
I don't think that's the main thing. It's the guaranteed. So what do you think his guarantee is going to be? Because everybody's so far is hovering around $57, $58 million. So is he fighting for 60? Did they come in with an offer that's like, we're going to offer you $48 million guaranteed? And it's like, dude, that's $10 million less than these other guys are getting.
Yeah. I would say that if the guarantees are more than those guys, then the total is less. So $23 million a year with 59 guaranteed.
Well, the total really means absolutely nothing, because even if the total is $100 million, and let's say he is playing out like they're gonna have him restructure it anyways. So I'd assume like it really is the guarantees. That is the biggest thing, and I bet that's the hang up. I bet the guarantees is the hang up.
Adam says 3 years, 75, so $25 million per year. I can do that math. 52 guaranteed. I don't think that'll get it done. I think they'd shoot that down. Max says, where is it? Max says 60 mil guaranteed. I think that's what they're going for. If you're the 49ers, how about this question, Croc? If you're the 49ers, would you rather do 4 years or would you rather do 3 years? Because 60 mil guaranteed in a 4-year contract gives you an extra free year at the end that's not guaranteed, basically.
Right. Yeah, give me 4.
So 4.
But maybe that's how we're thinking, and maybe Deebo and his people are like, no, we want 3.
And if
with
you want
the guarantees that these guys have.
Maybe Adam's onto something. If you want 375, so that's the most per year of all these guys, tied for the most, 25 mil per year. you're not also going to get the most guarantees. So maybe the guarantees do have to come down in that.
If you said today that he signed for an extension for 3 years and $60 million guaranteed, we're talking about $20 million per year guaranteed. I think he would take that.
Here we go. I think this is the closest I've seen, and it's just right in there and just kind of changing things a little bit. So 3 years, 74, 61 guaranteed.
Yeah, that's $20 million a year guaranteed. Obviously, that's not factoring in whatever his signing bonus would be, which probably be crazy.
Yeah,
but you got to take that. Like, you're rich.
Anything 60 mil guaranteed, he's got to take it, right?
Yeah, that's more than everybody else got.
Right.
That is weird though that they're all getting 3-year extensions. Is that weird?
I mean, not if you're DK Metcalf. You want to hit free agency again when you're 27.
Yeah, well, Terry McLaurin got that too. And Terry McLaurin is a little bit older than Deebo.
Yeah, he's more in Deebo's range, yeah.
Yeah, he might be 27 years old already. Or he's about to be. And I think Deebo will be 27 before the season ends, but I don't remember exactly what. Like, it's like December or January. It's kind of like a little bit later.
All right. The Deebo contract, who knows? I think they might be signing that thing right now. The Deebo deal is going to be done this week. It is going to be done this week. Deebo Samuel is going to be on the field for the first preseason game. He's going to be on the field when the pads
He won't play in the first preseason game, but yeah, he will be.
He'll
be on the field, like on the sideline.
He'll be signed, yeah. He might get a series.
No, they're not giving him a series.
No.
Because he trained away from the facility. He wasn't a part of anything with OTAs. He comes in. They don't know exactly what kind of shape he is. They have him just running sprints down the sideline. Like, nah, they're going to give him all the time. I'd be surprised if he played in the preseason game.
Not even the second preseason game. Not even a couple series with Trey Lance. Nah, he'll get some time. He'll get some time with Trey. You got to have him taking passes from Trey as QB1. Speaking of QB1, Trey Lance, let's get into that. How is he looking on day 2? Not quite as efficient as day 1 of training camp, and it looks like the DBs are owning the day for the first 2 days of 49ers camp. But before we get to those, we got to talk about Bet Online. Tons of odds for the NFL season already up at betonline.net. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews of every league, not just NFL, by the way. The Giants have shot to the top of the odds for Jimmy Garoppolo's new team. We used to be the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are now second. So it is New York Giants 1, Cleveland Browns 2, Seahawks 3, Texans 4, Lions 5, Bears for some reason 6, Jets 7, Saints 8 for the top teams as far as odds go at BetOnline for the next team for Jimmy Garoppolo. It doesn't specify trade or if he was released and signed with one of those teams. Not just NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, NHL, combat sports, live in-game betting, esports, golf, and more. Head over to BetOnline today. Use your desktop or mobile device to learn more about the trends and action happening today at BetOnline, where the game starts. Okay, Croc, it's time for you to talk DBs because that is your specialty. And I know you've been high on Emmanuel Moseley for a while, and he's picking balls off. He's up in receiver's face, locking them up. Charvarius Ward, the free agent, on the other side, locking them up. Jimmy Ward had an interception today. I like pretty much all the DBs I'm hearing from the starting unit, at least, getting their hands on the football at 49ers training camp, making life very difficult for the offensive side of the ball today.
Yeah, and I did talk about, I believe on yesterday's episode, the defense typically is ahead of offense to start training camp. And in every team that I've been a part of. I've never been a part of a team where the offense just comes out and they're just lighting it up and the defense looks so helpless. That's why I was a little surprised with yesterday, Trey Lance being efficient, even though Nate Sudfeld's going with his second unit, who cares? 11 for 11 is 11 for 11. Like, very efficient, very good. So I was a little surprised by that. But I think they kind of, offense clearly came down to earth. Defense stepped up today. It does sound like, though, the cornerbacks specifically are making life extremely tough on the receivers. And getting in their face, playing press man, I feel like they should have been doing that. I thought they played a little soft. They've been kind of playing soft for a few years, but specifically last year, they went to a ton of quarters. And you have guys that can really play, man, at the line of scrimmage. So they're making life difficult. Guys are having to really work for it. And there was one play that I hear Trey Lance threw a go route to Brandon Ayuk down the sideline. Ayuk turned to catch the ball here, hit him in the hands, perfect pass, and one of the corners came through. I think Moseley came through, boom, punched the ball out, broke it up. So they're making the receivers work for everything.
6 of, I think it was sub 500 or sub 50% passing for Trey Lance.
Yeah, I saw like 7 of 15 and I saw 6 of 14. So
okay, so yeah, under 50% either way you slice it, which isn't great for training camp, right? No pads on, receivers can't get hit. My question for you though, Croc, is how much can we take away from this before they get the pads on? How different was it for you going from no padded practices to all of a sudden padded practices? And I'm guessing those Rex Ryan padded practices were pretty intense with the Jets.
Yeah, he wanted to keep guys up for sure. I remember that specifically. But I mean, you've been playing with pads your whole life. So I do hear people like, oh, when the pads come on, and I guess maybe some people change. I think what it is some people don't get as much opportunity. So like OTAs, when you're running around with just a helmet on, a guy that's third string might get more opportunities than in training camp when, okay, now we're really trying to get some of our guys ready, and now you just don't get as many reps. So a guy that maybe balled in OTAs, the coach is like, whatever, we still have our guys, and you get less opportunity. So I don't know how much difference the pads make when you've been playing with pads your whole life. But I think for the most part, the receivers, typically no pads favors the receivers. So if receivers are struggling to get open without pads on, that's a little concerning. Now, there is no Deebo Samuel. And the tough thing with the 49ers receivers are, most of them, maybe McLeod, I haven't studied McLeod or looked at him to that extent, but they're not real big separators. So you're going to have to win with little separation. And can you do that? And right now it sounds like they're having a hard time with that.
It's funny because when it's your own team versus your own team, and if you're a 49ers fan, you're like, awesome, dude, I love hearing how good the DBs are doing. But man, does that mean the passing game is going to struggle this year? Or the wide receivers not doing their job? And when you hear about the defensive line beating up on the offensive line, which I think is probably a lot more, I mean, probably no position group gets hurt the most by not having pads on than the offensive line, right?
Right.
Would you agree with that, Croc? And a clear L, I think, for the offensive line today. But they literally all 5 starters from last year, Croc, are not in there right now for the 49ers. Now, some of them are the starters for this year, but no Trent Williams. McGlinchey's not doing any teamwork right now. You already lost Laken Tomlinson and Alex Mack, your left guard and your center, so that's 4 out of 5. Daniel Brunskill is the only one at practice, and he's kind of rotating in at center, and he's not starting at his position guard that he was at last year. So that's tough for a team to overcome. You would expect, and you would hope that it gets better with Trent Williams there, and as these guys get more reps. But that is a little bit scary, right? To start camp, one of the biggest question marks we have, getting beat up and dominated in practices to start, and with so much changeover on that offensive line, you really want to hear some good reports about that offensive line before those preseason games starts.
Yeah, and I was talking to Grant Cohn, and a lot of people are going to make a big deal out of Trey Lance and not being as efficient today. But he was talking about how sometimes on these bootlegs, Trey Lance would turn around and there'd be a guy right there tagging off. And then Trey Lance would just, they just kind of keep the play going and you kind of just throw whatever. But, yeah, that's something that can definitely be an issue if you don't have your start unit in there. Now, over time, you can build that continuity with the offensive line. One thing with the offensive line, especially in that outside zone type scheme, guys move as one. Guys have to really learn to work together. And if you're not having guys that have been working together, and it's just a bunch of random guys and you're trying to figure out, hey, can you play guard? Hey, can you play tackle? Can you play center? That might not go well, especially when you have a young quarterback behind that is trying to figure things out for himself, what he's seeing with the defense. Sacked 5 times. That's what I heard. Trey Lance was sacked 5 times today, right?
Right.
You're sacked 5 times. And maybe you could say, well, he's holding on to the ball. But with everybody saying, hey, he's gotten better with knowing what he's seeing and being more decisive, the offensive line, it sounds like it didn't really help him too much.
It's tough too, yeah, because you can't touch the quarterback, obviously, so he's playing through plays where he would have been sacked. Apparently there are plays, he got sacked before he even rolls out. So That's really tough if there's people on you instantly, and when the pads do come on, and when you're playing against other teams, especially if that's still happening, insta sacks is going to be rough for this offense and really rough for a young first time starting quarterback to overcome. So I wonder if
real quick, that's a bad combination of your offensive line getting beat like a drum. Nobody could block Eric Armstead in the middle and stuff or whatever. Nick Bosa's out there, he's terrorizing, and then your receivers are getting strapped up by Emmanuel Moseley and Charvarius Ward. That can get you a little tight a little bit if you're the quarterback playing with that against that first team unit.
I did find it funny, and it's probably a struggle for the Trey Lance truthers and the anti-Jimmy crowd to see Trey Lance at training camp throw the Jimmy interception where he doesn't see the safety that comes down in the box.
Yeah,
and throwing Jimmy Ward on, I think it was a slant route intended for Brandon Ayuk, and he doesn't see the safety there at all, throws it to him. That's the Jimmy pick, and now we see it from Trey Lance. So I just thought it was interesting and funny. So I wonder how some people react to seeing that hated seeing Jimmy throw the exact same pick. All right, next, I got some questions here about, first of all, somebody throwing out some props to Mr. Eric Crocker. We've got to get to those. Any of your questions coming up, talking about the line, talking about the DBs, talking about the quarterback situation, and how many sacks could Nick Bosa get if the DBs on the back end are locking people down? Coverage sacks coming up in just a bit. I do want to thank everybody once again for making Locked On 49ers your first listen every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. For your second listen, check out the Peacock and Williamson NFL show right here every day. Myself and Matt Williamson, former NFL scout, talking about the entire league daily. Croc talking about NFL Draft daily on the Locked On NFL Draft podcast, co-hosted by Ryan Tracy. And tons of other great content. Make sure you're subscribed up to all the channels. Your team is covered no matter the sport here on the Locked On Podcast Network. This from Nathan. The first comment we had today going live. This is before we even went live. Nathan wanted to give you some props today, Croc. He saw your session on Bleacher Report. He said he enjoyed it. Team is built to beat anybody with quality QB play. And that's all Lance needs to be this year, a quality quarterback. And he needs to be allowed to be a quality quarterback. So he can't have guys in his face all day long either, because he's not going to just be making backyard Superman plays every single down. Like you don't want him to have to do that. Lance needs to win the easy stuff, and he needs to be allowed to win the easy stuff. So yeah, Deebo get back, Trent Williams get back. First of all, let's start there. 49ers Shaolin says, B. Peacock better be careful. The show may be Crocker and Peacock show pretty soon. Man, I don't know. I can't let Croc. I know he's doing big things, and he's in a lot of places, but I can't let him overtake me on the marquee, okay? I got to have my name on the left. I got to have my name on the left. What do you think? Coverage sack season. Bruce says, okay, guys, will we see more coverage sacks for Bosa this year? Could push him up over 20. I already said I like the over. His over-under right now at BetOnline is 12 sacks for the season. Give me the over on that all day. The only way he goes under 12 sacks, he's hurt.
Oh, I'm eating that up. Yeah, please. I need to go put money on that right now. 12 sacks. I'm anticipating a lot. Remember, he had a great year last season. He was coming off of a torn ACL. Didn't even have a true, real offseason. He was, you got rehabbing. Do I trust my knee 100%? Obviously, he's always going to come in as best as he could be, but he's a year removed from that. And right now, again, everybody says, oh, best shape of my life. Well, except for probably Deebo Samuel. But everybody else, best shape of my life. And, he really is in the best shape of his life. He's ripped, he's jacked, he looks like a superhero like he typically does. I'm definitely taking the over on 12 sacks. How much money can we put on that on BetOnline?
There is a limit for those types of props, but whatever the limit is, I might have to hit it.
Yeah, I'm hitting that limit.
Any news on nickel? It feels like they've been doing a lot of base in camp. What do you think, Croc? Nickel corner? Because with no Verrett, Moseley's got locked down on one side. Charvarius Ward locked down on the other side. There's a lot of bodies and a lot of potential there. Darquez Denard, I believe, is getting the first reps right at nickel. He should have competition. What's the competition? Have you heard anything about nickel? I haven't really seen a lot written about the nickel battle at camp. Something we're going to have to keep an eye on if they're in person.
I had Tracy Sandler on my YouTube channel, and she likes the rookie out of
Samuel Womack.
Yeah, Samuel Womack. She likes Samuel Womack. So we'll see. It's hard because, and I was talking to Grant Cohn, 49ers don't do a whole lot of 3 receiver sets. not too much 11 personnel. So it's hard to really get an idea of who actually is the nickel that they feel most confident with. If it's me, I mean, I like Emmanuel Moseley, but that's kind of in the perfect world. You need to give other people opportunities to play there and see what they could do. So you got Dennard, you got Womack, Diamador Lenore sounds like he's playing outside actually, so not even playing in the nickel. So
yeah, Diamador playing on the outside with his fellow second-year corner Ambry Thomas, right, with the second unit basically coming in for Ward and Moseley on the outside. Not great reports about Ambry Thomas, Croc. Not great, right?
Little testy. Again, it's early, but I'd say these are things that are starting to become a little consistent with Ambry Thomas. Last year, these things happened. Training camp actually happened in the regular season. Obviously, towards the end of the season, he made some plays. Still had some hiccups. There was a play in the NFC Championship game. Cover 2 didn't sink enough. Kind of stayed too shallow on 3rd and long instead of playing down back and forcing the check down throw and making tackles. So there's just some things he needs to work on, but definitely doesn't sound like too good of a start to camp. Early, still early though.
A couple of good points in the chat here. Jimmy's problem is that he kept making that same mistake repeatedly, talking about throwing to the safety or the linebacker underneath, not seeing him.
He did.
And added to that, if Trey makes that same interception throw 20 times like Jimmy, I'll start to worry. Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Yeah. That's the thing. Listen.
And that's a Kyle Shanahan thing, too. It's at a certain point because he's trying to get these certain looks in the middle of the field, get catch and run opportunities for his guys.
Well, here's the thing, too. Practice, right? And I know training camp, whatever. This is a time to figure things out. Kyle Shanahan is still figuring out. Uh-oh. Am I on? I think I turned my mic off for a second.
No, you're good.
Kyle Shanahan is still figuring out Trey Lance and where he excels, where he doesn't, right? And I think with Jimmy Garoppolo, the tough thing is like, this is where you excel. The issue is there's so little room for error. So if you barely miss, that can be an overthrow and an interception. Trey Lance, hey, maybe he never really, or over the next year or so, he's not great throwing that pass over middle and it is liable to sell. Well, all right, throw outside the numbers, right? Throw comebacks, go down the field. There's all these different things you can do off of it. But Kyle Shanahan, this is his time to figure that out. And this is Trey's time to figure out his strengths and weaknesses, where he's at and what he needs to build on. So it's tough because early on, I don't care about anything I'm reading about Trey Lance, except unless these things are consistently happening in practice. But right now, you have to figure it out.
Got some comments here. Some excitement about the free agent signee, Charvarius Ward. Buck says, heard Ward was balling. Everyone who's been at practice has been impressed with the corners. And Charvarius Ward, just like Moseley, has been holding it down, apparently. I really want to see those guys against Deebo, though. That'll be worth the price of admission once that starts to happen. If it does happen, we might not get a chance to see that.
Yeah. I like the thoughts of Ward playing well. And again, it sounds like they're playing man press. I need to go. Maybe I'll go practice this week coming up.
I was surprised by the Ward signing, kind of putting him up there with some of the better corners in the free agent class. And the more I watched him later and looked at his profile, it gets me excited. I think I was definitely underselling Charvarius Ward as a free agent. Like he looks like he's a dude, and I think his mentality is key there too. So like,
I think it's because there was J.C. Jackson on the market.
Yeah, and then there's Stephon Gilmore, who's a bigger name. He's been around, done it at a high level, even though he's on the wrong side of 30, whereas Charvarius Ward is not. So I think that's a big key. You got a player who's playing his best ball, or his best ball is still to come, whereas some other names, you might not be able to say that about. They might have already hit their peak. 49er Shaolin says, didn't they sign Dennard to play slot? Yeah, but I mean, I don't think they signed him to be like, this is our guy and he can't be beaten out. So that's why I'm interested in that training camp battle, because I don't think Dennard should just be handed the job. They just, drafted multiple corners in back-to-back years. There should be a lot of competition for that job. And if Dennard at the end of the day is the best one, then he is. But I don't think he's someone that you sign and say, well, we're done. We're done at that position. He's the guy.
Right.
All right, we're getting close to the end here. Let's finish it up. Rhino G says, the 49ers need Deebo Samuel, even though he's been causing drama and anxiety through the fan base. I've never seen in my lifetime a wide receiver have the balls to run up the gut with so much strength and speed. I think some of the drama is overblown. It's hard for Deebo too because he's ready to go. He's at camp. You see him. He's dapping up teammates. Like he's there. He's mentally in it. He's letting his agents take care of stuff. And I think a lot of what happened this offseason is his agents. His agents are like, Deebo, we're trying to get you $25 million per year. So he's like, cool, let's do that. And he's like, Deebo, you got to do this, got to do this, got to do this. And none of the stuff that came out about Deebo, he's never said that any of it's correct. He's never said that it was about straight up money. Never said he was disrespected by the 49ers. He never said that it's about his usage. He's never said any of that is correct. I think they're just negotiating a contract. And you can't get that mad at Deebo for that because the team is negotiating on the other side too. It just hasn't been as public.
Yeah, the issue is that fans, their loyalty is to the team. And the moment a player kind of gets not even disgruntled, but, like the business, because these things only happen typically unless you're with Stephon Diggs, right? Remember Stephon Diggs was like, I just don't want to play with Kirk Cousins anymore. Please trade me. Remember he was standing on the sideline like, I don't want to play with him. So, I mean, you've seen that very rare. And then crazy thing about that, so Stephon Diggs is like, I don't want to play with Kirk Cousins anymore. He gets traded to Buffalo. And people are like, you went from Kirk Cousins to Josh Allen? Wow, have fun in Buffalo. Next thing you know, like Josh Allen just takes off and he's like the best quarterback ever. But Deebo, it's just the business element. And there's no offense to the fan base. There's no offense to the 49ers. But look, business. Once I get paid, I'm good. We're good. I just need to get paid. And we're good. That's how I take care of my family. This is how I eat. This is how I wear my designer clothes, like all that stuff. I think it was Trent Williams I saw taking the private jet to training camp. This is how I take the private jet, right? Like, it's a business. And fans, I almost feel like I would not be surprised if Deebo Samuel hates the 49er fans right now.
It'll all blow over and they're going to love each other and the fans will love him back. I've said before, it's like the fans got to cool it a little bit. Don't hate the player, hate the game. Don't hate John Lynch if they lowball Deebo either. That's the game. They're trying to get the best. They're trying to do the best for the organization, trying to get the best contract for them. Deebo's trying to get the best contract for himself. Right. And when you it's really simple to me. When you see Deebo, just see a 30-second clip of him running at camp, talking with his teammates. Like he's in. Like Deebo's the most in guy there's ever been. And Kyle Shanahan keeps talking about it too. He's like, you don't have to talk Deebo into doing something. Like he's all about the business. And so the fans I think the fans and Deebo are going to hug it out when this is all done. I think it's very close. But you're right, Rhino. The second half of your statement here, his ability is special. He's a special dude with his burst, what he's able to do with the ball in his hands, and he makes the 49ers offense different. Very different. And we need him in there. And as much as some people want to push Ayuk out in front and say, with Trey Lance, maybe it's Ayuk's time. I think Ayuk can be a dude, but Deebo's the wide receiver one. And it's Deebo over Ayuk. It's Deebo over Kittle. It's Deebo over the running game. It's Deebo's ability is special. What he did last year, he carried this football team on offense.
He's the best player. And the great thing about 49ers offense, you got like three best players.
That's true.
All that premium positions.
And here's
Deebo,
the thing: is
Kittle, Trent Williams. Like hey, if you were like Trent Williams is the 49ers best player, I'd be like, you're right. If you were like George Kittle is the 49ers best player, I'd say, you know what, you're right. If you were like Deebo Samuel's best, you're right. Like that is a good luxury to have.
Yeah, that's very nice to have. But if I was drafting those offensive players, like as good as Trent Williams is, he's just one of 5 on the offensive line. I would take Deebo number 1, right?
Yeah.
Would you?
Well, yeah, because if you look at, you go to the NFC Championship game and they throw a screen to him and, okay, I get a block here and there, but, I mean, you see him break a tackle, stiff arm a guy, and then outrun everybody to the end zone. It's like, does he need anybody else on the field?
It's crazy, man. They need a play. They put him back to return kicks. He threw a touchdown pass,
Right.
All right.
Special.
We got to get
special receiver.
Very special.
Real quick, we didn't talk about this.
What?
Chris Sims, Deebo Samuel, number 2 receiver in his rankings.
Sims been talking to Kyle.
No, it was interesting here, and I've been saying this, and I almost felt like I was taking crazy pills because it's pure receiver. And at first, I used to think something like that, but then after you see a guy go for 1,400 yards, it's like 1,400 yards is 1,400 yards.
He was on pace. he was on pace to do everything he did as a running back yardage wise in the second half of the year. He was on pace to do that just as a receiver in the first half of the year. He had his same 1,800 yards if he just did everything and was used as a receiver the entire year. But they just wanted to change it up and use him in a different role. He's a receiver. He is a dynamic receiver. He's
a dynamic receiver. Whether you catch the ball at the line of scrimmage or you catch a ball on a slant 5 yards down the field, a dig 10 yards down the field, whatever the case is, if you're catching the ball and taking it to the house from a receiver position, you're special. That's special. That ability is special. And Deebo Samuel has special, unique receiver ability. He's a receiver. And Chris Sims was like, look, if you're telling me that you take the guy that runs these crisp routes over someone that's more of a weapon, he's like, well, hell, give me the weapon all day, every day. And his top 3 receivers were all weapons.
Kurt says, I'll still take Bosa any day as the best player. I'm talking offensive side of the ball. I would draft Bosa first, too.
Yeah.
I'm drafting only 49ers players. My order would go Bosa, Deebo, Kittle.
I would go Bosa first because I feel like I can count. Like, I know what I'm getting from Bosa. There's no in between. There's no I got to worry about this or that. It's him and his brother. They go to this like Bosa lab. They do their little thing and create themselves, and they come out looking like superheroes. And I know I'm getting that until he retires, right? When some other guys like, am I going to get the best version of this guy from year to year? You got to worry about that. So I might take him. But if you're just telling me I'm getting all these players at their best, then give me Deebo Samuel. Because to get a guy that is your receiver, is your slot receiver, can be your running back, can be your kick returner, can be your punt returner. And he can throw a touchdown pass. He just affect the game in so many different ways. It's hard to find guys with that type of unique ability. That's for the same reasons I would draft out of most quarterbacks. Again, most quarterbacks. If I had to start a franchise, give me Lamar Jackson because he can throw definitely well enough. He's a 65% completion percentage type guy. He can also run for 1,000 yards, and he can throw for 3,500 and have 45 touchdowns, and in different ways. So I don't need the best of everything around him to still be able to win games because of how dynamic he is. Now, my team is a little bit more built, then yeah, okay, Josh Allen, Mahomes, some of these other guys. But if I got to start from scratch and I don't know what I have around him, give me Lamar Jackson. I'm going to win a lot of games.
From scratch because you know what he can create on his own. Although if I'm building a franchise, I still wouldn't take him first just because I'd be worried about him getting hurt running, and I don't want my quarterback running that much.
Well, I know he missed some time last year. That's the first time he ever missed time.
Yeah, I mean.
Who'd you take? Because if you say Josh Allen, he runs just as much.
He's built to handle it better, but I would take Mahomes. I would take Mahomes over both of them.
I don't want to hear that.
Brady never runs, and he's 45 years old and still playing.
I just watched a game where Tom Brady took off 3 times.
There was a play last year, right? People forget about him, and he's really good at the QB sneak too. So he gets touched a little bit.
No, he's the GOAT at the QB sneak.
Yeah, exactly.
But he took off for like 8 yards, 9 yards. He got up, slid like first down, did that.
He's got
aggressive,
long ass strides. You're like, come on, get it going, buddy.
I think we forget how big he is. Like 6'5".
Yeah, he is 6'4", 6'5", something right in there.
Peacock range.
He's my height. He's like a less handsome, not as good broadcasting Brian Peacock.
Right. He don't got the voice.
Yeah, he's got a better arm. Just barely. Last one here. Over under Lance pass attempts 20 per game. Over, but not by a lot. I think passing volume is gonna be low.
It's the NFL. Like you're just gonna throw over 20 times a game.
Yeah. Yep. That'll be interesting to see where the leash is like.
He threw 71 passes last year, right? It's kind of hard though because it's like played half a game.
Well, the first game he only attempted. It was less than 20 attempts in the first game, but he carried it. No,
I don't think so.
You think? No. Did he threw it more than 20 times and carried it 16 times in game one?
I'm pretty sure he did.
Now I'm curious, and I gotta look it up.
All right, gotta search it up.
We were gonna be done, but now we gotta check this out because
we gotta bet something like 10 push-ups on that.
I mean, if he is over 20,
he threw over 20
in that game, then there's really no chance that he's under 20 in any game, let alone average.
Right. In the game where he ran the ball 16 times.
And obviously, if you're behind, you got to throw. That's just the way it is sometimes.
Right.
So let's see. Oh, geez, what are we doing here?
I do know in the Texas game, he didn't throw a whole lot. I think it was like 23 passes. There we go. Somebody said
here it is. Okay, 18.
29.
18 pass attempts. Oh, no, that's Seattle. Sorry. So it was 29. Yeah.
Yeah. And the 18 was Seattle. Obviously, there was times you feel behind, but I mean, that's 18 and 1/2. Yeah,
so 29 pass attempts and 16 carries. So that's 35. That's 35 plays that are all Trey Lance. That's a lot for a rookie's first NFL start. And you're right. You had it on the nose, 23 attempts, 16 of 23 against the Texans in his second start.
Yeah. Very efficient.
Yep. All right. Good stuff.
That.
Thanks, everybody.
I'd expect stuff like that. Real quick, I'd expect that. Like 15, 29 one game, 16, 23 the next game, 18 for 28 one game. Like, I think we'll see that. And as it goes on, you should see him kind of settle in a little bit more.
All right. I'm going to go do some push-ups. Croc, I know you already got your push-ups done today. I know how you do early morning. I see it on the gram, working out for the gram. Hopefully you get your turf in your gym.
They did the laser grading today. They went, they did all that. Everything is completely level. It is ready for the guys to come in next week and lay down the turf if they just do it. Damn it.
Hell yeah. Frontline Sports. Make sure you're following us on Twitter at Eric_Crocker at BD Peacock. Thanks everybody for making Locked On 49ers your first listen. Croc and I back Monday. There's going to be a lot of action, a lot of camp to talk about over the next few days when we reconvene to talk about it on a Sunday evening for your Monday morning listening pleasure. Croc and I back next week right here, Locked On 49ers.